That's funny. I'm Emma, day 8 of quarantine, and I'm finally starting to feel really bored. And I have on dip nails, and they're starting to like grow off weird. I like need help. Yeah, have you seen that meme? It's like girls coming out of quarantine, like, and they have like roots this long. They have like 2 eyelashes on. It's so funny. So funny. I feel attacked. I know. I can't cut my own hair. Yeah, you always do a good job though. Maybe. Yeah, I think it looks good. I was surprised. Well, I guess a couple times you went to the barber. Fooled me. I know, it's true. And it's kind of expensive. Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, it's true. Really? That's weird. That doesn't make any sense to me. I still have my mm, yeah. Well, that's dumb. That's dumb. Sexist. Just go in there and like draw stubble on your face. Like, hey, I need a haircut today. It's a thing. Hot stuff. Hmm. I am, and my drink is hot. Dumb. Okay. Well, I read some things about David Icke. I think that's how you say it. I thought it was Icky. I thought it was Icky, but I'm like, nah, I think it's Ike. Yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah, in our last episode, Jolie, you asked me when or what I was gonna do for this week, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna do the moon. That's what's up. But it just wasn't interesting to me. I don't know, fuck the moon. have you have you seen that episode of 30 Rock where uh really? I've been watching it too. Where they're like, fuck you, moon. Yeah. So funny. David Icke. He was born on April 25th, 1952. Soccer player, sports broadcaster, professional conspiracy theorist. He wrote 20 books. Yeah, he is. Um, I he did he did write 20 books. It's nuts. Some years he wrote like 3 books. Um, no, I'm serious. That's why, like, I was saying to you, like, this is kind of wild because it's just like so much information. He was just putting out information like endlessly. Yeah, I watched a coronavirus interview of him last night. I actually thought it was going to be really interesting, and I like smoked weed and was like, "This is it. I'm gonna like think the government is out to get me. Like, I'm ready for it." But I don't know. Like reading about his theories and stuff. Like sometimes I'm like, okay, I get it. Like that's interesting, maybe. But this was like weird. He thinks climate change is a hoax. And for me, that was like it. I'm just like, I don't care what you have to say. But it's like if you buy into all the other stuff that he believes, then like yeah, I get how he got. I get how he got there. But I'm not a true believer. Um, let's see if you are. Um, ew. So before he was a professional, I think I know what it is too. Hard no. So he wrote 20 books, and out of all those 20 books, a few of them were actually about sports. Maybe actually just one. Um, so he was really bad in school, like in elementary and middle school. Like he wasn't that smart, but then he got recruited to play football, our soccer. I think I'm going to keep saying soccer because we're in the USA. Yeah. Um, Yeah, I have it written both ways, so we'll see. Yeah, so he was recruited. He ended up playing for Oxford United's reserve team called Northampton Town and Hereford United. Um, I don't know. My friend Lindsay's husband is like, really? Oh, there's another one too. My friend is like obsessed with them. I need to find out. Oh, Lancaster? Yeah, right? Isn't that? I don't know. I would text her, but that feels annoying, so I'm not going to. We'll update you. I'll update you next week. um, right? Like I don't even remember. So for I think like 10 years. So okay. So when he was originally recruited, he was recruited by Coventry City, which is like not important. He was like 15 or something. 10 years after that, in 1973, he was playing for a team that mattered. Um, and he got really bad rheumatoid arthritis. It started in his left knee, spread to his right knee, ankles, elbows, wrists, hands, um, and it messed up his career. Um, so when he was 21, so I guess it couldn't have been 10 years, whatever. At the age of 21, he had such bad arthritis that he had to retire from soccer, which is insane because he's only 21 years old. But I guess rheumatoid is something different. Like that's not the same thing as like old. That's like getting like chunky joints. Mm, interesting. Yeah. Well, and that really sucks for him because like he wasn't really good at anything but soccer, football. Um, so that sucked. Then in 1983, he started being a sports broadcaster. He was the host of Grandstand on BBC Sports. He like wrote in papers too before that. He was a sports editor, but then he started doing broadcast stuff. And in that same year, he published his first book called "It's a Tough Game, Son," about how to break into soccer. Yeah, I know. Yeah. Right. Um, yes, that was his first book. And he worked for BBC Sport until 1990 when he refused to pay his poll tax, which is some like British thing. Margaret Thatcher introduced this new tax, and he publicly said that he'd rather go to prison than pay this new tax. So the BBC was like, "Oh, we probably like shouldn't be associated with you anymore." So that was that. Um, 1990, and he was born in 1952, so he was like 38. Right? Is that math right? Was that math right? I don't know. It sounded right. Let's go with it. Um, so in the 80s is when he started like really getting into this new agey kind of stuff, and it's because of his arthritis. He's just like, this sucks. I need answers. I need to like feel better. Started talking to like psychics and you know yeah, he became a member of the Green Party too. He was like super involved in environmental ethics and rights, which is really interesting because he thinks climate change is a hoax now. It's like, what? Um, yeah. And I don't know. It's weird, and also it's like a lot of the time stuff is interesting to me because he just had a lot of different things going on in his life. It seems like at the same time, like he was still working for BBC Sport until 1990, but during that time is when he was beginning to get involved in the Green Party. Because in 1989 he wrote a book called "It Doesn't Have to Be Like This," which is about the environment and like taking care of the environment and like how we suck. I think so. I mean, I don't know. I didn't read the book. Maybe I should have. Maybe I should have. I did watch his YouTube video. That video is weird. I read all the comments. I'm like, oh god. Um, yeah, everyone's like, you stole the words right from my mind. Ooh, okay. Um, so yeah, even though the BBC ended up distancing themselves from him, he was still like here in the U.S. on commercials for different charities. Um, he was well known. Um, so I don't know. Yeah, right. Me too. So he, I guess, was a household name, but I guess in the U.S. nobody cared about the tax or something. So like, whatever, you're still fine. Um, So while all this is happening, he's not doing the sports stuff anymore. He's like hella into the environment. This is what he starts feeling like a presence around him. Okay, so this is like something that he himself said about this time period, in his life. When he was giving an example of like what this presence is and like what is this that I'm feeling, and he asked, "If there's anybody here, will you please contact me because you're driving me up the wall?" And after he had done this in this hotel room, which evidently was in March 1990, he felt really drawn to go to a bookshop. And this force and voice pulled him towards the book called Mind to Mind by Betty Shine, that was written in 1989. Weird. Oh, shit. Get ready, guys. We're quizzing you. um, Yeah, so she was a psychic healer. He ended up reading her book and then wrote to her. He's like, I need to talk to you. Like, my arthritis is messed up. Maybe you have answers. Like, this voice guided me to you. Like, help. Me too. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I believe it. Yeah. I mean, you got that whole surgery done in your neck. Yeah. 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 Hmm. For sure. I get it. Because also, it's like taking pain meds and stuff just doesn't really help. It's not like a sustainable way of life. Yeah. No. Yeah. Yeah. Right? Yeah. So yeah, he ended up meeting with this lady four times. And in the third meeting, this was on March 29th, 1990, Ike claims to have felt something like a spider's web on his face. And Shine told him that she had a message from somebody from the spirit world. And this is, I'm quoting, Ike had been sent to heal the earth and would become famous, but would face opposition. The spirit world was going to pass ideas to him, which he would speak about to others. He would write 5 books in 3 years. In 20 years, a new flying machine would allow us to go wherever we wanted, and time would have no meaning. There would be earthquakes in unusual places because the inner earth was being destabilized by having oil taken from under the seabed. And I guess the spirit's name was Wang Yi Li. Who Betty Shine spoke to? I have no clue. Right? Wang Yi. Okay, so this is a thing. It's Taiwanese folk religion, and it's frequently considered an aspect of the Taoist belief system. Wang Yi are divine emissaries who tour the world of the living on behalf of the celestial realm, expelling disease and evil from those who worship them. Totally. Very interesting. Okay, so and I understand why Betty Shine was trying to contact this spirit realm because Wang Yi like wants to like helps with stopping diseases. Yeah, so yeah, Wang Yi gradually became disease dispelling gods and bringers of good fortune. Very interesting. Thank you, Wikipedia, and thank you, smartphone, and the internet, and oh my god. Oh, all right. So let's see. I mean, there's no new flying machine. I mean, because that was in 2010. There were earthquakes in unusual places in 2010, right? Mm, yeah, yeah, for sure. But I mean, did we know that then? Did we know that in the 90s? Huh. Yeah. So maybe Betty Shine knew. Maybe Betty Shine didn't know. We don't know. Uh huh. Totally. I'm the one who told you that. This happened. He's like, hopefully I feel better. You didn't really talk to me about my arthritis, but you opened up all this new, you opened my eyes to a bunch of other stuff. And then he entered what he called the turquoise period, in which he only wore turquoise clothing because he felt that that was a conduit for positive energy. Um, right? It's very interesting. And like, what did he do with the rest of his clothes? He's like, get rid of all of this. I only need turquoise, right? Mm-mm. He was not watching turquoise, or he was not wearing turquoise in the YouTube video I watched yesterday. He had on a maroon sweater and a white collared shirt underneath. So I guess he's not in that phase anymore. Yeah, yeah. Like the whole thing, he kept being like talking about like the Hunger Games Society, Hunger Games Society. Like he said that like 15 times. I told Benny, I'm like, we should take a shot every time he says Hunger Games Society. Right, I know. And he's like, "Isn't that a movie?" I'm like, "Well, I mean, yeah, but it's like a book too, but that doesn't make it any less." Uh, oh yeah, I mean, during this turquoise period is when he really started like getting pretty woo. Like he received a message from a godhead, and I'm quoting this. He has like his own terminology for everything, or AKA infinite mind, and he was informed that he's the son of a godhead. He and his then wife Deborah Shaw, who's also a psychic, had a press conference about this. I mean, can you imagine how this went? He has a psychic wife, and they thought that they needed to hold a press conference about him being, contacted by a godhead and, or the infinite mind. I know. And like, this is kind of like when he started being ridiculed a lot publicly. I have Australian friends, not the same. Uh-uh. Really? Yeah, I mean, evidently he was on some sort of talk show, like in Britain, a talk show, and I guess he was talking about this sort of stuff, and the crowd started laughing, and he laughed along with, and the host was like, "Well, no, they're laughing at you," and that was kind of like really upsetting for him. I know, and he was just ridiculed, a lot. So they had this press conference because they felt like they needed to warn the world because he was informed that the world was going to end in 1997. It would be preceded by a hurricane around the Gulf of Mexico and New Orleans, eruptions in Cuba, disruption in China, a hurricane in Derry, and an earthquake on the Isle of Iran. Aran? Iran? Arran. No, I mean, I don't think any of these things have happened. He also said that Los Angeles, LA would become an island, New Zealand would disappear, and the cliffs of Kent would be underwater by Christmas. I wrote, spoiler alert, didn't happen. Yeah, it's not an island. Yeah. Yeah, and he was getting these messages like through automatic writing. It's almost like he was like channeling the spirit world, and like just this information was coming out of him. Maybe. Yeah. I mean, well, I told you about that spirit guide video I watched that basically told you, one of the things that it said was to write down, like, oh, like great spirits who, protect me and guide me through life. Like, please write through me right now. And like, you write that down, and then like they're supposed to write through you. I never did it. It scared me. I'm like, oh, I'm okay. Because I told you that freaky thing that happened, right? When I like said those words out loud and asked for a sign. Yeah, how like me and Mateo got home, and we were on the phone with Benny FaceTiming, and then the lights flickered on and off, and then Mateo kept saying scary ghost and pointing at the corner. And I like didn't think about it at the time, but then later I was telling a friend about how I like tried to do the contact thing, and I was like, "Oh my god, wait, something freaky did happen." And then like a couple days later, I was getting ready to go out, and I said the thing again. I like tried to contact them again. I was like, give me a sign that's like more obvious, and like please don't scare me. Then I was out to dinner with my friend, and she walked me to my car, and we were chatting, and then behind her this rabbit that was like huge. Like it was huge. Like it was not a normal size rabbit, like started hopping down the street behind her. And it freaked me out. I like cried. I was like, you're gonna think I'm like totally insane, but like I think I'm being like contacted by the spirit realm, and I'm scared. So then I stop stop messing with it. I'm just like, whatever. Yeah. Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, cuz yeah, or something, or I'm just crazy, but it freaked me out. Just like, "Oh, I'm done." It was freaky. Right? It was freaky. It was like really scary. Yeah, well, he was being told this information, like, verbally, and also, through the automatic writing. So, yeah, I mean, this is when he started getting pretty wacky. And this is where he kind of began his whole like new age meets like universe consciousness conspiracy, reptilian humanoids. I'll go through some of his like books that kind of stood out to me. I didn't list all 20 of them because it's a lot, but these are ones that I'm going to talk about in a little bit, and I think it's important to like kind of know about them because like some of my quotes and stuff come from them. So in 1991, he had this intense experience in Peru, which I'll talk about in a little while, where he felt drawn to some stones and felt like he had been like plugged into a circuit and electrocuted. So he wrote the book called Truth Vibration about this experience. Next year, he wrote Love Changes Everything. It was influenced by his psychic wife, Deborah Shaw. In 1993, he wrote Days of Decision, which is an 86-page summary of of the interviews that he did after that weird press conference where where he publicly announced what a nutcase he is. Everybody gather around, gather around. But he also wrote another book that same year, two books that same year. The other one was called In the Light of Experience. And the third one that year was called Heal the World, a do-it-yourself guide to personal and planetary transformation. Right? But it's like, how does somebody who's not like in a state of mania write 3 books in a year? You know, granted, one was 86 pages long, right? It's interesting. And I mean, he, at this time, like he still had a publisher, like people supported him. I mean, even still, um, well, in 1995, he lost his publishers because he started denying the Holocaust. Yeah, so 1994, he wrote the book called Robots Rebellion, and evidently, this book is like extremely anti-Semitic. It's about like Jewish people wanting world domination, the Illuminati, and the Illuminati. You know, the elite at the top of the period, at the top of the pyramid. Yeah, I do. Yeah, this is just kind of like a run through of some of his books. So, in 1995, he wrote the book called And the Truth Shall Set You Free. And there's an entire chapter questioning aspects of the Holocaust. I'm quoting, why do we play a part in suppressing alternative information to the official line of the Second World War? How is it right that while this fierce suppression goes on, free copies of the Spielberg film Schindler's List are given to schools to indoctrinate children with the unchallenged version of events? And why do we, who say we oppose tyranny and demand freedom of speech, allow people to go to prison and be vilified and magazines to be closed down on the spot for suggesting another version of history? Needless to say, this upset his publisher. Yeah, yeah, 100%. He is. So he ended up having to self-publish this book and all of his subsequent books, you know, thereafter. And he did this by he formed his own publishing company called Bridge of Love Publications, which later became David Icke Books. But he had to borrow £15,000 from a friend in order to do this. But you know, this guy like who knows? But you know, he made it back. Like this guy, like he has a really big following and supporters. So then in 1999 is when he started talking about the reptilian race in his book called The Biggest Secret. And this is what like really drew me to him because it's fascinating. It's really fascinating. I'll talk about this a little bit more later, but I feel like I need to say it now is a lot of like the anti-Semitism and like things that people thought were anti-Semitic of him. I mean, okay, like the stuff that he said about the Holocaust was pretty clear. But some of it, it's like, I feel like when he's talking about the reptiles, like people don't think that he means this literally. And he means it literally. Like he doesn't mean like people who are like reptiles. He means like actual like alien. Totally. Exactly. You know, so it's not like, oh, Jews are reptiles. He's like the reptile. I don't. Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, and honestly, like that's what his defense is about it too. Just like, no, like pretty much like, no, like I literally, right? This reptilian race came from the Draco constellation, right? So 2003, um, he starts getting into Illuminati kind of stuff. And he also defends himself against some racism that he feels. In 2003, the book is called Tales from the Time Loop. So he argues that the Illuminati create religious, racial, ethnic, and sexual division to divide and rule humanity. But you can only be controlled by the Illuminati if you allow yourself to be controlled by them. And the power that the Illuminati has is just like with the power the people give them. There's like the main like reptilian bloodlines, and then there's like the Brotherhood. kind of. I don't know. I think I need to like actually read it from what I wrote because it's very complex. Yeah, Here's a quote from that book that I thought was interesting. Divide and rule is the bottom line of all dictatorships. Arab is turned against Jew, black against white, right against left. Unplugging from the matrix means refusing to recognize these illusionary fault lines. We are all one. I refuse to see a Jew as different from an Arab and vice versa. They are both expressions of the one and need to be observed and treated the same, none more or less important than the other. I refuse to see black people in the terms that I would not see white, nor to see the left as I would not see the right. How could it be any different, except when we believe the illusion of division is real? If we do that, the matrix has us. Good question. Right? Matrix release. To God, I don't know. 1999. Oh my God, that's so funny. Oh, what an idiot. But but I do actually think that what he's saying here is interesting because it's like if you think about the political state of our of our country, like a lot of our problems are coming from that. Like we are being intentionally divided for and manipulated for power, and it makes me feel like a crazy person being like, this is it, like the 1%, like they're fucking reptiles, and they're if it wasn't just like about like a reptilian race, like I hear him, it's like that does work. Yeah, so I thought that quote was interesting, especially because he had been criticized before for being racist and not inclusive and whatever. It seems as though his true message is like a message of love. I don't know. Yeah. But he doesn't necessarily say the Jews are reptiles. Here's another one. I strongly believe that a small Jewish clique, which has contempt for the mass of Jewish people, worked with non Jews to create the First World War, the Russian Revolution, and the Second World War. They then dominated the Versailles Peace Conference and created the circumstances which made the Second World War inevitable. They financed Hitler to power in 1933 and made the funds available for his rearmament. So he wrote that in his book, The Politics of Madness, where New Age meets the Third Reich, which actually I don't think was a book. I think it was published in a paper, like it was an essay. It was in the Associated Press. Yeah, that's what my note says. I don't know, man. Right? I'm gonna double check my notes. Or maybe this was in a lecture. Side note, he's really into lectures and he goes on like really big lecture tours, and he's lectured in 25 countries, and they usually have several thousand people attending. In Brixton Academy in London in 2008, he lectured for 7 hours to 2,500 people, like straight. Like this guy talks, and I think it's like he rehashes like all this shit. In October 2012, he delivered a 10-hour lecture to 6,000 people in London's Wembley Arena. Yeah, very interesting. I mean, and that's kind of what it was like in that video I watched yesterday. It's like had to like go through all of it to like get to the present. Anyway, this is the Jewish quote that I think is the most offensive. Because also it's like you could sub in and out Jewish for like any other like oppressed people, and it's just like it's just fucked up. Thought patterns in the collective Jewish mind have repeatedly created that physical reality of oppression, prejudice, and racism, which matches the pattern, the expectation programmed into their collective psyche. They expect it, they create it. So, yeah. Yeah, it's fucked up. It's just like, yeah. So yeah, he's repeatedly denied that he's an anti-Semite, and many of the people, I guess many of the people that he has publicly named as reptilian are not Jewish people. So there's like a Welsh gonzo journalist named John Ronson who questioned him in 2001. You know, he questioned him about this, and he said, here's a quote: "The families in positions of great financial power obsessively interbreed with each other. But I'm not talking about one Earth race, Jewish or non Jewish. I'm talking about a genetic network that operates through all races. This bloodline is being a fusion of human and reptilian genes. Let me make myself clear. This does not in any way relate to an Earth race." So, yeah, like it's not the Jews, it's like everybody who, I mean, has power, I guess. So, you know, and these people that he's talking about. So, as of 2003, the reptilian bloodline is claimed to include all American presidents, 3 British and 2 Canadian prime ministers, several Sumerian kings and Egyptian pharaohs, and a bunch of different celebrities. I mean, have you ever? Yeah, yes, and part of the reptilian bloodline. I mean, have you watched those YouTube videos, the Illuminati ones? Yeah, yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. Oh my god. I know. Right? I know. I know. Well, that's like when I was still researching the moon, I like was finding all these things of like people like super zooming in on like, you know, these like black and white photos. Just be like, "Do you see that? It's like it has to be buildings." It's like, oh, it has to be like a shitty photo. So some key bloodlines include the Rockefellers, the Rothschild, various European or aristocratic families, the establishment families of the Eastern United States, the British House of Windsor. Yeah, so the global elite is, you know, what he calls the Brotherhood, and their goal is a microchip population, a world government. You know, you know, 1984, no more freedom of speech. You know, and back to the coronavirus thing that I watched yesterday. It's like that's kind of what he was saying. It's like, okay, well, there's this virus. You know, I got to be honest, like I was kind of going in and out of paying attention because it was like, I mean, it's just like him talking, you know, I'm just like, oh, you're like nuts. But some of this is kind of interesting. All of the small businesses are forced to be closed. And the businesses that are open is, you know, big businesses like Walmart and Target. And we can't use cash because the cash has germs on it. I don't know. I guess basically what it's saying is like we're being forced into this. We're all being forced into our home. People that, you know, mom and pop shops are all like forced to shut down, whatever, like global conspiracy for us to be like completely controlled. And, you know, there only is Amazon now, or you know, and like you can only pay using your phone and there's no human contact. And it's weird, but it's like, come on, you have to admit it's kind of like, well, it's kind of interesting. Yeah, okay. Yeah, but it's interesting. I mean, and I guess also it's like in a time right now where things are like so scary and uncertain, it's kind of in a way like reassuring to be like, oh, it's actually just this like evil government plot. And maybe that's not reassuring. I don't know. I don't know. You either get me or you don't. If you don't understand me, that's your problem. So the brotherhood all like created or they control these things: the United Nations, the International Monetary Fund, Roundtable, Council on Foreign Relations, Royal Institute of International Affairs, CIA, M16, Mossad, Bilderberg Group, Trilateral Commissions, Club of Rome, the Internet. And also just like the media, the military, religion, science, all of this shit, all of the information that we get, and all of like the all of it's a load of shit, and the Brotherhood made it up, and we just believe them because we're idiots, I guess. In his 2006 book, The Royal Family Are Bloodsucking Lizards, he says, when you get back into the ancient world, you find this recurring theme of a union between a non-human race and humans, creating a hybrid race. From 1998, I started coming across people who told me they had seen people change into a non-human form. It's an age-old phenomenon known as shape-shifting. The basic form is like a scaly humanoid with reptilian rather than humanoid eyes. So there's his research, his evidence. Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, he wrote a real history of the reptilian hypothesis. Are you ready for it? Yeah. Archons, an interdimensional race, have hijacked the Earth and are stopping humanity from reaching its highest potential. So the Archons, and these are the reptiles. That's what they're called, Archons. 200,000 to 300,000 years ago is when the first breeding programs took place. Maybe it was Adam, from Adam and Eve. Yeah. So when was Adam? When was Adam? Well, so maybe Adam is not the 200,000 years ago, but there's been three different breeding periods that he says, and the most recent one was approximately 7,000 years ago. Yeah, I wrote Adam in with a question mark, but I think that has to do with the most recent breeding, 7,000 years ago. Okay. So Homo sapiens, the first modern humans, evolved from their early hominid predecessors between 200,000 and 300,000 years ago. So yeah, Homo sapiens were the earliest human-like creatures. And we think that they diverged from other primates somewhere between 2.5 and 4 million years ago in eastern and southern Africa. Um, Yeah, it must be the 7,000 because that doesn't make any sense. And I think I just misread my notes because unlike you, I don't do bullet points. So like make everything into it's like a huge clump. And then I'm like, what? I just like can't think like that, like with outlines. Um, so that's what mine is. I'm like, I looked up this stuff, but like I don't really know what I wrote down. So let's like go, let's talk about it. Let's figure this out. Help me. Help. Yeah, right. I think so too. Yeah. Inclusive research. Get ready. And I'm just like, interesting. You should quiz me. That would be amazing. That would be a really fun, fun segment. How much did Emma really listen to? Like I don't know. Okay, yeah. You're right. So this hybrid race was the Babylonian Brotherhood, which is the Illuminati, and their whole goal is to keep humans in constant fear. Because, and here's another thing that like really resonates with me, because archons feed off of humans' negative energy and anxiety. Here's a quote from his book, The Biggest Secret, that's like mostly about this reptilian shit. Thus, we have the encouragement of wars, human genocide, the mass slaughter of animals, sexual perversions, which create highly charged negative energy, and black magic ritual and sacrifice, which takes place on a scale that will stagger those who have not studied the subject. And I've talked to Benny before. It's like sometimes I'm thinking about like how there's certain parts of the world where there's like just like constant sadness and like constant struggle and like constant turmoil and suffering and struggle and whatever other words like that mean that same thing. you know and sometimes I wonder about it. I'm just like, well, why, like how come like these certain people are born into sadness and misery, And like before even reading this stuff, like I've thought about it before as like an energy source. Like I wonder, this is like the episode right now where like everybody knows now. All 10 people or whatever that are listening know that I'm, oh shit. All 15 of you now know that I'm a nutcase too. But no, seriously, it's like an energy source. Yeah. 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 Or it's like this reptilian race needs their sadness to thrive. Yeah. In my notes, I write, granted, I usually think about this when I'm super stony, but yeah, I've definitely considered this on my own. Okay, so we talked about the bloodline. So here's some things that he believes that the Illuminati have created. There's this thing that he believes in. So the Illuminati guide us in the direction that they want to guide us by creating fake problems. And like by creating these fake problems, it allows them to, kind of solve that problem. So it's like, I mean, like think about when there was like Sandy Hook, and there was like all those conspiracy videos and stuff. Like what was the goal? Let's pretend that this wasn't real. I don't agree with that. That it wasn't real. Children died, and yeah, because it definitely happened. But I guess what he's saying, he calls this a problem reaction solution. So it's like they create the problem. So it's like a school gets shot up, a bunch of kids died. What is the solution? And it's like they want to advance an agenda. So like maybe in this instance, it was to further divide the left and right. Like some people really want more gun control, and other people say no. Like there needs to be guns in school, or like 9/11. It's like that's the agenda is like a worldwide regime change. I mean, this is just like conspiracy theory 101. It's like all these things that he like really believes and talks about. I mean, at least for me, it's like the only kinds of conspiracy I've ever really heard about, at least this sort of stuff. Like Oklahoma City bombing, Columbine, global warming, chemtrails, fluoridation of water, vaccines, the death of Princess Diana, assassination of JFK, like all these different things that, that have happened, I guess. I mean, it's interesting because these things do that. They do. Yes, and it's like, oh shit, like there's no way that this is a real thing that happened, because their whole goal is to divide and conquer and whatever. And it's like once you start believing it, like you start believing all of it. Um well, it's like well, yeah, so I didn't even talk about the moon stuff yet. Actually, one other thing that's important is, talking about how he has a lot of people that believe him. According to a public policy polling survey, around 12 million people in the United States believe that interstellar lizards in people suits rule our country. 12 million. Right? Right. They're like, I'm not voting either way. They're both reptiles anyway. Which is a scary thing to think about, honestly. Yeah. And it's like people really like this guy. And I thought that I was going to like him more when I watched the coronavirus thing. I thought that I was going to be like, you're compelling, but I didn't feel that way. So I wanted this episode to be about the moon, and maybe I'll go back to some of my research. It's like some of it, I guess, was interesting. But thanks to that, I discovered the moon matrix theory. So the moon is a reptilian-owned spacecraft, and it's where they control the Earth. Here's a quote from his book, Human Race, Get Off Your Knees. The Lion Sleeps No More, from 2010. He does. They're really, yeah, like the best one. The royal family are blood-sucking lizards, 2006. Like that one is so good, just like to the point. Like I know what I'm getting into. So funny. Here's a quote. He says, "We are living in a dream world within a dream world, a matrix within the virtual reality universe, and it's being broadcast from the moon. Unless people force themselves to become fully conscious, their minds are the moon's mind." It's just kind of like, what? Okay, so he says that the reptilians come from not only another planet, but another dimension, which is, he calls it the lower astral dimension, and it's the one that's closest to the physical world. Oh man. Okay. I don't know. It's from the fourth dimension that the fallen angels police our vibrational prison, the matrix, and seek to addict and restrict us to the dense physical senses. Reptiles come from the fourth dimension, but it's not, but it's like the lower fourth dimension. And so that's why we can't see them, because they're like in a different place than us. Right. Like, sure. All right. Okay. So evidently there are 7 dimensions of existence realms, and our Earth is level 5. So some people who have strong reptile DNA within their genetic structure are easily influenced and controlled or possessed by the reptilians that actually live outside of our realm of awareness. Yeah, so these reptilians or humanoid leaders do not carry emotion or empathy. Therefore, they will influence us to be affected or suffer for the purpose of controlling us by any means and to subjugate the human species. All right. Sure, whatever. These people live inside the moon, and they're broadcasting like a hologram or something on us. Like we're living inside of a holographic projection, which he expands upon in another book that he wrote 2 years later called Remember Who You Are, Remember Where You Are, and Where You Come From. This book, he talks about the Saturn moon matrix. So now it's like this isn't just being broadcasted from the moon, but instead the rings of Saturn are artificially created by a reptilian spacecraft. And these rings are the ultimate source. And these frequencies are broadcasting from, it's called the hexagonal storm on Saturn. And that's like a cloud pattern on the North Pole of Saturn. And these are being blasted towards our Earth, and then they're amplified through the moon. Just like, it is, right? So I don't know. I mean, it's both. The moon is it's like a broadcast network or some shit. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. The whole thing's weird. But I mean, a lot of people believe this guy, and I mean, I'm not gonna lie. At some points, like while I was researching him, I'm just kind of like, yeah, fuck the global elite. Yeah, totally. Yeah. I mean, if he like really, really believes this, I mean, it's been like 20 something years, 20, maybe 30 years now of him telling the same story. And yes, the more that you tell a lie, the more real it becomes. Yeah, well, and I guess now it's also like he has all these followers and people who are like, yeah, like he had another video which I almost watched, and I'm glad that I didn't, because I don't know, he thinks like there's like a transgender agenda, and I was just like, oh god, like it's just shit like that. You know what I mean? It's like, what agenda? Yeah, and to like be who they want to be, like. But I didn't watch it. But it's like on all these videos, it's like he has a channel and he has like tons of subscribers, and people just like believe it. I don't know what my takeaway is here. I mean, what if this is real? Like, what if he's right? What if like we're all on social distancing? We're all quarantined in our homes. All small businesses have closed. There's global economic crisis, right? Like, let's just like really let's put on our tinfoil hats right now. There's global economic crisis. Everybody is like struggling, and it's not just our country who's financially in trouble. That opens up the door for a new global currency. You know, like when I like just like start thinking about it with my hat on, you know, I'm just like, oh, like maybe we're all just like what about that shit that Trump said, right? Like with that reporter, it's just kind of like in some ways it's like, God, maybe you like created this problem. And I know that sounds like totally crazy, and like I feel like a crazy person even saying this shit, you know, but it's weird that reaction to that reporter being like, you're a bad reporter, when asked to like comfort the American people, you know, like yeah, yeah, absolutely. And totally, yeah, well, and it's like, yeah. Well, totally. And I didn't see this, but Benny did see it where, you know, it was like an address to our country, and Trump started bringing out like the like CEO of like all different companies, you know, like big companies. And it's like, well, why is he introducing these people? And it's like, well, because they're the only people in control right now. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. Well, and you really like reptiles, so I'm sure you're just like, what the hell? Well, see? Publicly. Yeah. I know. It's like 1998. He's like, shit, world didn't end. Every single like world ending prediction just like cracks me up when it doesn't happen. Idiot. Right? So embarrassing. So embarrassing. I guess. In general, it's like a pop culture kind of reference. I mean, Mark Zuckerberg was like publicly asked if he's a lizard, you know, and he looks like a lizard. And I think that has to do with this, you know? And I mean, he probably is. Like, he probably is a reptilian overlord. I mean, Facebook is like really, they're listening to me right now. They're everything I'm saying right now is being broadcasted to the moon. Yep. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So, what are you going to talk about next week? You know, I noticed that. So crazy. Hmm. I can't wait. That's crazy. Yeah. Very interesting. Yeah, and yeah, I'm excited to hear. Yay! Bye.